In this video, I'm going to give you my top 5 tips to interviewing anyone for your podcast. And I mean anyone. What's going on? My name is Thomas Jordan, and if this is your first time on this channel, I do tutorials, product reviews, and interviews to help you turn your passion into profit using online video. Also, thank you so much for taking the time to check out this video and my channel. I seriously appreciate it. And to show my appreciation, I have a free gift for you before we get started. It's my YouTube QuickStart guide. It has everything you need to get your channel started today. I show you how to set up your channel from start to finish, as well as how to shoot, edit, and publish your very first video. It's a free download. The link is in the description. Okay, here we go. Tip number 1, prep, but don't over prep. So I have a podcast called That's the Industry where I interview creatives and professionals so you can apply their expertise. And when I'm preparing for an interview, I pull up their website, social media accounts, and previous interviews that they may have done. I only spend 30 minutes on research and preparation. Anything over that is overload. When you're first starting out, chances are you're already in your own head thinking about your next question, or have one of those ooh, real quick moments where your guest brings up something that you may want to highlight and you don't want to miss. If you do too much preparation on your guest, this will happen more often than you'd like. It will also distract you and take you out of the moment. If you want to highlight something they said while they're on a roll, make a quick note on a piece of paper and be sure to ask the follow-up question. Some major keys to interviews are to stay present and listen. Which leads me to tip number 2, listen. This is by far the most talked about skill to have when it comes to interviewing almost anyone. In fact, if you see a similar video about how to interview anyone and they don't mention listening, that's a huge red flag. As important as listening is, it's also one of the hardest skills to master in my opinion. I've been interviewing influencers, celebrities, and everyday people for the better part of 10 years. And I'd like to think I've mastered this. However, I have ADHD and I'm dyslexic, so my brain is going a million miles an hour and is super scattered at times. Well, most times. Point being, even the pros mess up. You may have a list of questions prepared and ready to go, but if the person you're interviewing says something unique or tells you something that they haven't mentioned before, you need to be listening and not be afraid to ask a follow-up question. And depending on what they said, you may have to ask several follow-up questions. Don't be afraid to deviate from the plan. Just go with it. The best way to practice listening is to interview as many people as humanly possible, or just start random conversations with people and find out what their story is. See how long you can keep them talking, and listen and be curious. And sure enough, that's what tip number 3 is. Always be curious. You can plan and prep all you want, but if you're not curious, you run the risk of sounding just like everyone else. Also, don't be afraid to be curious and dig a little deeper when you ask a question. This happens sometimes with a few clients of mine. They get really nervous or they're afraid to offend the person that they're interviewing. If you don't understand the answer to your question, chances are the person listening doesn't understand either. So ask the same question, just reword it. If you feel like the person could elaborate more, just ask them to. A few months ago, I did a reaction video of reporters asking Jonah Hill questions. In this clip I'm about to show you is a perfect example of what I mean by always being curious. Roll it.
I thought it was very funny.
It was funny.
Ben's a hilarious guy. I was with him all day today, him and Vince, and it's great. It's really fun.
So he just got done talking about how awesome it was to hang out with Ben Stiller. But no one asked the follow-up question for that either. It's like he just said him and Ben Stiller were hanging out. What does that look like? What are Jonah Hill and Ben Stiller doing? Like, are you guys talking shop? Are you guys just doing coffee? Like, what does a conversation, like, tell us civilians what that looks like? It may be normal to you, but it's not normal to us. Like, what are you guys talking about? I don't know. If you want to see the full video, I'll link it in the description. Tip number 4, ask open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are questions that don't require an immediate yes or no response. These questions force the person to give a more in-depth answer, as opposed to a one-word answer. Here are some examples of some open-ended questions. What are you most grateful for this week? and why? How did it feel when you hit that game-winning home run? What is it like to be a part of such a nostalgic film franchise? Now, here are some examples of some close-ended questions. Is the sky blue? Did you learn anything new when working on this role? Are you having fun tonight? Now look, sometimes rules are made to be broken, and depending on who you're talking to and the setting you're in, you can ask a close-ended question and the person you're interviewing knows to elaborate. For example, if I was interviewing a celebrity on my podcast about an upcoming movie and I asked, "Did you learn anything new while working on this role?" The person I'm interviewing would respond with a yes and go into detail about something they learned on set because they know they have to elaborate. Honestly, it comes down to what the question actually is, the tone you're asking it in, and the person you're talking to. If you really want to test this out, practice interviewing kids. They will let you know real quick if you're asking an open-ended question or a close-ended question. And last but not least, tip number 5, it's not about you. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. It's not about you. When you're interviewing somebody, it is about them. You are there to make sure your interviewee is the superstar. Think of it like volleyball. You set, they spike. I see a lot of people trying to compete for attention or people trying to one-up their interviewee. Now, I'm not saying be boring or to not be yourself, but just remember, it's not about you. When you make someone look great, you look like the pro for making them look great. Plus, you make a great impression and you build your network and possibly get more referrals for more interviews. And now that you know how to interview just about anyone, remember, don't subscribe, join my tribe. We'll see you next time.